Our apologies for that long delay. We just need to come back into regular.
I make a motion that we come back to regular meeting.
And executive session, is that what you mean?
And then executive session.
Yeah, and executive session, that's what I mean.
Right.
Yes,
All in favor?
and Scott.
Aye.
Richard?
I'm Richard, yeah.
Paul?
All.
Lisa? Jen? Okay, thank you. So let's see. We are going to move to notices of intent for Town of Scituate DPW 26 and 32 Gardner Road.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Sean McCarthy with the DPW here in Scituate. I guess we have two items on the agenda this evening. One for 2632 that was continued, and I also have some housekeeping that I'd like to take care of. When this drainage was installed approximately 2004 on Gardner Road for the roadway improvements, the order of conditions was never closed out and a certificate of compliance issued for that. I have prepared a request to close out that 2004 work so that we can move forward with tonight's just as a housekeeping.
Sure. So why don't we deal with that first, Sean? Do you have that? You have the letter?
Yeah. Well, I think it's just housekeeping.
Yeah.
So it actually doesn't require a vote.
Right. So you're going to withdraw the first application.
This has to do with the initial installation
Okay.
of it. We did file 2 years ago to leave the drainage where it is, or actually relocate it to the drainage easement that exists on Gardner Road between 28 and 32.
Right.
That notice of intent is still open. We filed a new notice this spring to leave the drainage where it is. The owners of the property are willing to give us an easement for that stormwater, so we're actually applying for a limited project and maintaining an existing stormwater system. The only improvements will be to place the piping underground till it gets past the the existing dwelling on the right, so that we don't have any impacts to the basements of that property.
Right.
And all the work is still out of the 50 feet. That's our limit.
So do you recall that at the last meeting, the plan that showed that easement in the drain pipe?
Yes.
And it's as you proposed at the last meeting?
Correct, yeah. We hadn't received the DEP file number or comment from them at that point. Following our last hearing, we did receive a number and I believe no comment from DEP on the proposal.
Okay. Penny, do you have any additional questions?
Well, we're talking the new pipe you want to put in. I thought DEP said we could not go into the 50 pipe.
We're not.
You're not?
All of the work is outside the 50.
Okay, because we were talking about the neighbors wanted it to go right down and blah, blah, blah.
Correct. We've
So
left it
we
right
want-
where it is.
Right where it is, it's gonna stop there.
Yes,
Okay,
50 feet short of the resource area.
yes.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
then I'm happy.
Richard?
I'm fine.
Paul?
No questions.
Lisa?
Nothing.
Jen? Amy, you want to add anything to this? Okay. Questions from the audience? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Don Nagel here for Jason Catlander. At the previous hearing, we did express concern that, we're happy with the approach of piping it, but we're not happy with where it ends. It ends too close to the Catlander's house. Piping it increases the velocity of the stormwater, and there's going to be scour and undermining of the foundation of the house. and damage to his backyard. So we did request that that the town engineer consider seeking a variance to extend the pipe further down.
Okay.
So,
Yep. And I think we've looked at this, and we've had DEP out to the site on a couple of occasions, so that they were pretty familiar with this. And I think Amy's had some conversation, I know Pat did, as to where this could go. And the commission felt that this water needs some treatment before it gets to the resource area. And so extending that pipe eliminates one of the issues that's gone on, that the abutting property is going to allow that pipe to remain in the area that was not really an easement, as opposed to try to move it to your client's, back into the easement area, which would have put it closer to your client's property. And so the commission, we've been trying to work with DPW to come up with some sort of solution to this and what would work, decided that if this was acceptable to DEP, that this might be the best way to resolve this ongoing issue. And we feel that discharging that water closer to the resource area only exacerbates the problem and allows for more impurities to get to the marsh. I guess your point about erosion or impacting your client's property, the only thing I could say to that would be, do we need to look at the size of the level spreader or however we're handling that discharge, Sean? And is that adequate, or should it be a little bit larger?
Well, what I don't want to do is make it so wide that it spreads the water back onto these two properties.
Shoot it, yeah.
And I want to keep it headed towards the marsh, you know, so that it's a direct route. The larger I make this, the more water's going to sit here and have an opportunity to expand onto the properties, which we're trying to prevent. The outlet is past the patio at this point, and I did discuss this with the director about applying for a variance to get it closer, and for all the reasons you stated, that's
Right.
why it wasn't pursued further.
So, I mean, would it be feasible to consider where that riprap is installed at the end of the pipe to continue that another 5 or 8 feet or something like that, just to,
It would put us in the 50, not that it's virgin.
right,
This was created, you know, in 2004.
right. And we certainly don't want to decrease the length of the pipe to have more stone outfall.
Right, then it will discharge back here closer to the existing dwelling. Right now, it's past both the foundation and the patio that's out back.
Got it.
It discharges here,
That's a plus compared to what it's doing now. It's
Right.
coming out right after,
way up here.
yeah.
yeah, yeah, my thought on that is exactly right. Maybe there's some way to design or enhance the design at the end of the pipe, not allowing the pipe to go into the 50, but to reconfigure or redesign what goes after that. Would that not be considered maintenance of an existing drainage swale and not have to trigger a requirement for a variance? I'm just
What-
suggesting that might be the case.
I'm not really-
Because it is an existing.
There's work there, some of that gabion baskets and the outfall.
Yeah,
I don't know, I'm not sure how far that goes beyond.
That should, I was just looking at the original, yeah, and the proposed grading didn't go down as far as the resource area, when it was originally constructed. For the original plan. I mean, we could extend the stone into the 50 if we wanted to create more of a channel.
You could, but that's not what DEP wants. They want it to stop.
Which we're okay with, but
Amy, do you think it's feasible to continue that level spreader or crushed stone for another 6 or 8 feet? If we condition that, would DEP take a look at that? I'm just wondering what else would be required.
No, I think you could condition that, but I'm not sure there's reason to do that.
Well, it just, if it eliminated the chance of erosion or siltation.
You're
or-
already taking the pipe past the foundation, past the patio.
No, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
My concern would be that the discharge from that pipe, if it was, there was sufficient velocity in that pipe to create a problem at the end of the pipe. They have a small amount of stone at the end of the pipe to handle that discharge. And Mr. Nagel's concern is it sufficient, or could that impact his client's property? And is it possible to carry that stone another?
Well, I think, Frank, that if Sean has designed it in a manner so that it feels pretty confident that it's taking it past the residents, then it should be sufficient. But if he wants them to make some slight grading going in, but I mean, I think the point is we don't want it to go, there's already alteration out there, so we don't want it to go further into that 50.
I mean, this has to be a better situation than what's there now. A lot better.
This is a bigger improvement, it stays under 15, and it's far much more forward than it was.
Yeah. Past the house.
I've seen ends of these pipes. I mean, a long time ago, they were just a piece of flared pipe at the end, and it didn't go to anything. Now, we seem to have areas where we're putting a fair amount of stone in those locations, and just looking at the plan, is it sufficient?
But
Right.
I think, how about if we condition a good maintenance schedule? I think that, you know, if things get choked up, they're more likely to flare out and back up. But if we do an annual maintenance, make sure the water's running, it should alleviate any problems.
to monitoring,
Yeah,
whether it's
yeah.
considered
Yeah,
maintenance
yes.
or, and then if we have to modify it,
Twice a year, or, I don't know, whatever you think.
So let's say that it gets constructed, and then there's still some problems with the discharge at the end of the pipe. What happens at that point? I mean,
I think we take another look at it and they potentially amend it. You know, so if they do this and it's a fail, then I think we need to take a look at the engineering design and try to figure out why that is.
but the orders would be open for a period of time, so
Yeah.
that, worst case scenario, those orders could be amended to change that outflow without having to refile.
Yeah.
And DPW could work on that relatively quickly to correct that if it needed to be.
Yeah, I mean, these permits are not set in stone. There's definitely flexibility to,
Okay.
you know, work with situations that arise.
So in our orders, we're gonna have some maintenance
Yeah.
pieces with that.
monitoring, sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any idea when you plan to get this work done, Sean?
I don't.
I mean, it would seem to me that if the work could be done when it's dry, it would
Right, yes.
Right,
dry-ish.
now, yep,
You know, grass could get established at the end of that outfall and
right,
be less of a chance of siltation or erosion,
yep. Along the whole swell, sure,
Right.
yep,
Yeah.
especially where the pipe discharges.
right,
Be nice to get that all seeded and grassed in. and-
yep. It's really a funding source,
Right.
whether it's through the highway departments, budget, engineering's budget, or, yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't appear to
We
be
don't
an
have any
expensive.
money. Not a
Conservation,
not-
okay.
not our-
Yeah, a nickel.
Okay. Mr. Nagel.
Yeah, just a quick question. If it turns out that there is some issues there, the kind of amendment we're kind of thinking of, if necessary, would that be considered to be a minor amendment that would require a refiling? You may have actually said that, right?
Right, we,
Yeah.
you know, when we amend it, obviously, there's notification, so you'd be party to that.
Yeah.
More than likely, you'd be the person coming in to ask for it. So, but my concern would be that it would have to wait to another whole filing and go before DEP,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
that this could just be dealt with relatively quickly. And so, you know, an amendment can be done relatively fast as opposed to a whole filing. All the pieces are in place. And we look at it with DEP and say, hey, this isn't working out. You know, it's impacting these folks in a way that they hadn't anticipated or we didn't anticipate, and we've got to make some corrections. And I think that could be dealt with at that level without
Yeah.
ramping back up with another whole filing and more delays and all that sort of thing.
I mean, if the DPW is willing to, recognize that that might be a situation, that'd be very helpful.
Absolutely, yeah,
All right?
yeah, fantastic.
Okay, anybody else?
I make a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm waiting for that one for a while. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate everybody's cooperation.
Yeah, a lot of people working on
Yeah.
this one.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have some additional continuances. Charbonnet? Charbonneau. At 78 Central Ave, requested to be continued to 7/23.
Yep. I make a motion that we continue 178 Central Ave to July 23rd at 6:20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then Gracie, 180 Central Ave, representment, they've requested a continuance to 7/23.
I make a motion that we continue 180 Central Ave to July 23rd at 6:20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Frank, I think you can read the next one too.
Bronstein?
640 Greenbush Station.
At
Oh,
17
okay.
Driftway.
Yep. So the Greenbush Station LLC, Genta 17 Driftway, replaced 60 feet of sewer pipe. They've also, but I have to open that one, right?
We haven't opened it yet, you know.
Oh, yeah. I don't think you have that one, hold on.
Want me to just,
Hold on that one, yeah.
want me to just make it up?
Nope.
I can.
Frank can wing that.
I can do a cut
Yeah,
and
no,
paste
just
in my head.
wait on that one, because I'm gonna go grab the folder.
Our trustee secretary.
Oh, by the way, tonight, I'm sorry, your name?
Leanne Cataldo.
And is filling in. Carol, who's been our administrative person here for 20-something years, has retired. So if we seem a little off, it's for good reason. Thank you for.
Seem a
jumping.
little off.
Is 32 Gardner the next one continued?
I think we just handled that.
Well, it's
Mark-
2632.
Well, the first one I thought we were doing.
It's on there twice.
Housekeeping and the other, yeah, I think we did both.
One's modified, one's
Yeah,
drainage.
okay. That's,
It's okay, we're a little off.
oh, I'm very off. But, what are you gonna do? Him. All right.
I don't know why I can't open the Greenbush one. And,
Why you can't open it?
Do it. You can do it. You're the chairman. You're the king.
yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, good thing. King of the mountain. Do they wanna do it on July 23rd? Can I write it? I wonder why they continued? Huh?
Unless you do.
What, I do? What do you mean take it forward? Well, I have. Right.
Get all his opening statements tonight.
Is that the, is this the one for the driftway? I was gonna watch this meeting and laugh.
Might watch a lot of meetings and laugh.
Yeah.
All right, on July 9th at 2018, 6:40 PM, the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a hearing, wetlands hearing, under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Greenbush Station LLC, Peter Genta, to replace approximately 60 linear feet of sewer pipe on property located at 17 Driftway, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. So
They want to continue it to the 23rd?
So they don't want, no discussion on this tonight, just continue it.
To the 23rd?
Yes.
I make a motion we continue the 17th of this day to July 23rd at 6:20.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. So now on RDA's, Regan, 35 Jericho Road.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, let me just read this, come on up. On July 9th, 2018, during the 6:15 meeting of the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Russell and Rebecca Regan for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands Bylaws to install landscaping and basketball court on property located at 35 Jericho Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested persons are invited to attend. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having us back. I brought some support this time. This is my husband, Russ.
After all the heavy lifting's done.
He felt the same way I did. He probably would have been able to express it a little bit better. But so I don't know the exact process. Do I just kind of walk
Why don't you just
through
explain to us what
we
you'd like
want
to do? Sure.
So I'll start from the front of the property and work back towards the backyard where the basketball court will go. So up front, to the existing driveway, we just want to add new crushed stone and apply a cobblestone border around the entire driveway. To the front of the driveway currently sits to the left of the house. In the front of the house, there is a cement walkway that leads from the street up to the house. We want to get rid of the cement and put down cobblestone instead of the cement. And then out front, touching that new walkway, we want to include a landscape area that would mimic what we put down for the driveway, so a cobblestone border with crushed stone inside of that. And then out back, we want to add a basketball court, and I know I talked about this a few weeks ago. So this was the whole main piece of this project. So originally we wanted an asphalt driveway specifically so our three little guys could play basketball. After talking with Pat, we thought it would be a very lengthy process to get approval for that. So anyway, we thought this was a better solution, and I still really feel that that's the truth. So the court would consist of 3 layers. The first layer would be crushed stone. The second layer would be stone dust, and then on top of that sits it will not be bright red, but it'll be a permeable plastic tile. They're removable, and they're not designed specifically for yards like ours that have issues with permeability and all of that, but it does talk specifically about the use in that sort of situation. And then we also will be adding loom to pretty much the entire yard to cover up a lot of broken glass and debris that was brought in by the storms over the winter. We've already applied the silt sock that you guys recommended during the last meeting. And I think that's it. I think I included all. And then along the back, we wanted to put, we don't know exactly what type of plantings, but some sort of, we've looked at those, I think they're, I don't know the correct term, but like a beach rose type thing to create. What's the word?
Rosa
Rosa rugosa is what we were thinking. Thank you. So I think those are the main pieces.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions. I like the idea of that water to go through. Yeah, good drainage.
Green?
Green, we were either going to do Scituate blue or green. We were ultimately going to leave it up to our boys. Definitely not red.
It's a much better.
Yeah, Scituate blue, don't we, Jen?
Right, Rick really loves it.
Go ahead.
No, it's so much better. I think it's a decent plan. I don't know what Amy's going to say, but I think it's a decent plan.
Well,
No questions.
Sounds like a good improvement.
Thank
Amy,
you.
how are we with these disturbances? Are you good with the?
Yeah, no, I think that the silt sock on the back to make, it's coming in, I can tell by going by there, but it's definitely, I think it's good.
Put the plantings through. Those are helpful.
Yeah.
Gives it
Make it
there.
work.
Yeah.
So that while you're doing this work, you've got earth and stuff that's disturbed, and you've got a marsh in back of you.
Yeah.
So what we would like to see is people put erosion control around the farthest outside part of the property.
Yeah.
So that if you get a rain event or flooding or something, we don't want silt, loam going back into
Leaking
the
in.
marsh. So we want to, while you're doing this work, silt sock is probably the best piece that can go around there.
Perfect.
There's a couple of companies that can put that in.
That's
for
already
you.
been done.
Okay. And then, just adding loam, how much loam are you thinking about?
So it's anywhere from 3 inches up to 8 inches. There was one area of the yard where our sewer cap is that got exposed through the storm. So that'll be the deepest, and that's to the side of the yard where the restaurant is. And from what, we've only been there 2 years. Our neighbors have been there, I think 16 years, and they said they've never seen anything like what happened this past winter. And they think I guess there was a breach in the seawall way down near Sand Hills, and the water was actually coming from that direction. So it's
Yeah.
that side of the yard
It's going to
that
happen
got.
again.
Unfortunately.
He doesn't want to hear that.
Like, how's the way your neighbor
Nobody
said,
wants to
it's
hear.
flooded before and it'll flood again. But what you don't want to, what we can't allow you to do is to raise the grade a lot in your yard.
Yeah.
There's kind of a line between what's landscaping, so
Yeah.
adding some loam so you can get grass to grow, and you point out there's probably some rough
Yeah.
stuff out back, so we want to do that. But you can't keep elevating your yard
right.
to a point where you're shifting water or something onto your neighbors or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Our plan
Yeah.
was just to kind of even it off where it was taken down.
Sure.
And bring it back up to grade level at its highest point, where it's already existing at that point. And just to, again, we don't have any intention to keep bringing it up.
I think if there's some low spots that are 8 inches, but to try to fill the whole yard with a lot of material would not be something the commission would consider.
Right. No, I think the 3 inches, our landscaper said that's what you needed to grow the new yard. So, again, the spots that got kind of taken out is
Sure.
that 8 inches, and the rest is more like 3.
Okay.
And it was
Anybody?
going over existing yard.
Right.
It's not like they cleared out the
Right.
salt marsh.
No, I've looked at it, I get it, and just, again, we just don't want to allow filling of a large portion
Sure.
of the yard.
Right. Significant change in the grade.
But the crushed stone's all good, it allows, water to recharge, so, good. Anybody in the audience?
I make a motion for -3.
Okay.
Second.
Bob, if you're looking for an apprentice, they've,
Very nice job. Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all very,
All right,
very
and
much.
just stay in touch with the commission, with Amy.
Okay.
If you have questions,
Awesome. We will. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you, folks.
Is it Ellery, 110 Oceanside Drive, deck?
It's 120 though.
120 Oceanside, sorry. If I get the name right?
Yes, close enough.
On July 9th, 2018, during the 6:15 meeting at Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Jill Woolery for determination of applicability of Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Situate Wetlands bylaws, to build a deck on property located at 120 Oceanside Drive, Situate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening. Sorry for the delays.
No worries. This is my contractor,
Hey.
Chris Garvey, so he'll do the
Yep.
explaining.
Okay?
Yep.
What's your plan?
So, looking to build a deck on the property going out 5 feet towards the water, and she has an existing deck right now that goes out 8 feet, so we'd like to extend that towards the neighbor's property about 4 feet or so. The back deck did go out about 8 to 9 feet towards the water, and it got pulled off in the March storms. So just looking to scale it back on the water side and maybe gain some room on the, the side that doesn't take a beating, so. I have a better picture right here. I know those filming the passes.
So you sustained some damage from the nor'easter Riley.
Yeah, I think we lost that deck actually in the Jan 4th one, but
First storm, yeah.
yeah.
the rest is
We'll
no.
lose track
Yeah, it
of those.
didn't matter after that.
You didn't want to tell those people that the yard would probably flood again. Anybody with any questions? You're on property and all that. You've got that surveyed, so that you know that you're on.
Oh, yeah, yes.
There's that, I don't know if you have the plot there, but there's actually 2 plots that I own, one that the house sits on and then one that's between mine and my neighbor's, so we've got plenty of room there.
Okay. It might be good to give that to the agent, if you can get the copy of that plan to go with the drawings that we have here.
Okay.
All right? That'd be helpful.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody in the audience?
Amy? Motion for -3.
All in favor?
Aye.
-3 is good for you.
Oh,
Negative.
All right, but if
Thank
you
you.
can get us those plans,
Please.
and then you want to post, they'll get permission for that, you want to post that like a permit.
Okay.
okay,
And,
I should have it ready for you tomorrow afternoon or something like that.
okay,
all right,
all right.
okay,
Great,
good luck.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Babineau, 13 Stone Ave, replace back and side deck. On the July 9th, 2018, during our 6:15 meeting at Town Hall, the Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Heather Babineau for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Situate Wetlands bylaws to replace decks on property located at 13 Stone Ave, Situate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Good evening.
So you want to just give us a quick spiel on what you want to do, Heather?
There once was a deck there. There's no longer a deck there. We stopped the deck halfway up the side of the house, and I just want to continue the deck on the side of the house to the back of the house. I would be doing the prefab footings, and I think they would come off 12 feet off the back of my house, which the wetlands are 50 feet beyond me. And I will get flooded again, because I got wrecked,
Right.
so.
Amy, have you had a chance to look at this? You,
13 Stone Ave.
Yeah, I've driven by, I mean,
Yeah.
I had an open building permit, so I put the house up, I think 16 years ago. The building permit I never signed off in, so when I went back, I would go periodically back in and tell them what I was doing and doing. So when I went back in a few months back, I said, can I just put my decks on? Because it was approved 16 years ago. My upstairs doors have like boards across from them, because
Sure.
it's like, it was approved for the decks 16 years ago. So I just reapplied to, I guess, renew my building permit.
Sure,
So is what brought me here today.
got it. Okay. Anybody? All right. Anybody in the audience for this one?
I make a motion for a negative for
Second, good.
Where are you gonna get your wood now?
What, since my father's retired?
Yeah.
I don't know. DB&S.
Tell him we miss him.
I will. I still try to tell him to buy trees and a new sawmill, and he splits wood now for a hobby.
Her father had Thompson's
Sawmill.
Oh, really?
Yes. My whole house is built out of our wood, except my
Yeah.
decks, so.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we have a motion.
And second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
He'll get you that part.
All right.
I couldn't wait to ask. Sorry. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Good luck with your project. Good
Thank
luck with
you.
your yard.
Thank you.
Yes, so that should be ready tomorrow. Okay.
Francis, 63 Lighthouse Road.
Yes.
On July 9th, 2018, the 6:15 meeting in Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of William J. Francis for determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Situate Wetlands Bylaws to replace a deck with landscaping and steps on property located at 63 Lighthouse Road, Situate. Butters and other parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Hi. Bill left. The
Okay.
meeting was running too long for him.
Sorry about
I'm his
that.
daughter-in-law.
My
I'm also,
apologies.
that's all right. He's a little older now, so. Basically, I think you can see from the pictures, the existing deck is in,
Tell him it wasn't any offense to him.
no, he claims he was on the Conservation Commission
He
from
was.
78 to 80 or something, and so
And
as soon as you
Joan-
went in the other room, he said, this is gonna take forever.
And Joan was instrumental in a lot of the original grants, the flood grants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Joan Francis was building department secretary for a long time.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, yeah, unfortunately.
Tell him it wasn't anything to do with him that we delayed.
I will not. I will. I'll tell him it wasn't. But you can see the deck that's there is in
Yep.
pretty poor shape. And it was old, but then it was compromised by the storms as well. So we'd like to take that down and replace it with the, typical deck with footings, pressure treated, and
Which we'd rather see.
correct.
Oh, wait a minute. I thought, well, I think, yeah, I fibbed.
Okay.
I fibbed. Francis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I know, the number.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Remove concrete, they'll be taken out the same day, right? Off the property, the concrete.
Yeah, that's gonna have to, right, that's gonna have to be taken down. There's a kitchen renovation happening at the same time, but have to hold off on the deck until this.
Sure.
So, yeah, and then the,
Well, it says Francis. It's, I don't know.
This is
All
Lighthouse
right.
Road.
29,
No, but
Re-
we're on
deck
Lighthouse Road.
reviewed. I
We're on
know. All right, then.
Do you have a copy of your?
yeah,
Sorry.
no, not at all.
I'm very off.
That's all right.
It's 'cause
Thanks.
I don't have it.
I know. That's fine. Right. Why?
Oh, well.
He liked it.
Stressed concrete looks so good.
Oh, yeah.
Get no problem with that.
Yeah.
I want to replace it.
Just a little.
Did you see?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we
Thanks.
don't have a problem with
Yeah, we saw it down this head.
But this lets the water through.
that. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it does.
And the stairs are solid, so that it's gonna have much more.
Okay. Give this back. Okay. Thank you. All right. Any thoughts or questions?
No, I think it needs to be done.
Okay, anybody in the audience to speak to Francis?
I make a motion for -3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it Bronstein at 182 Central Ave?
Yes.
On July 9, 2018, at 6:30 meeting in Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Richard Bronstein, trustee of 182 Central Ave, trust to reconstruct and elevate riprap revetment on property located at 182 Central Ave, Hummerock. Butters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening, Mr. Crawford. Sorry for the delay.
That's okay, no problem. I have here with me tonight Mr. Richard Bronstein. He's the owner, and he knows more about the history of his property than I would, so.
Sure.
Anyway, this is about a 12,000 square foot lot on the easterly side of Central Ave, about 150 to 200 feet north of Seaview Avenue. The project consists of rebuilding a riprap revetment currently in front of the house. Part of it has fallen down towards the ocean and more of it has fallen backwards. So the intent is to rebuild it, bring in additional stone to bring it up to elevation 17. The flood zone that it's in is a VE zone, elevation 15. And currently there is a 10-inch concrete wall around the house, and the house is sitting up on piles. The 10-inch concrete wall supports the deck on the northeast and south sides of the house. The existing riprap has a high point of about elevation 15 and a half at this point, but it's predominantly from 13 to 14 in height. There's just one large rock there. I have a line shown on the plan, a heavy dash line, that indicates the riprap as it was in October of 2017. Since then, there's been, I think, probably 3 additional storms, which probably have changed it somewhat. I know we did a topographic survey in May, and the contours on this plan upon which that is based, those are based on that survey. The rocks are somewhat covered up. I have another line on the plan, 32 feet from the front of the existing 10-inch wall, which I thought would make a good point to provide for the forward point, the ocean side point of the limit of the new riprap. Because it's going a couple of feet higher, it's going to, in order to have a slope on the east side, it's probably will go out a little bit further. Try to answer any questions.
Any?
You do have existing riprap in front of 182. It's 180 and it's 78.
Yeah, 182. I'm Rick Bronstein. Just
Yeah, I
hi.
was down there today.
Sure.
And I'm just
Yeah, I think you might have talked to Bob.
Yeah.
So just on a note, I've been coming down there since 1967, so I'm a real fan of Hummerock and Scituate. My father had bought this place, and so I've been coming down there forever. And I guess my goal, and it's disheartening to see what's happening on the riverside, because we look at the beach, and the beach looks like it's preserved, but the riverside has been getting decimated. But my goal is to preserve that house. So there has been riprap there. I know for a fact it's been redone twice, and I think 3 times over the last at least 25 to 30 years. So it's been an ongoing process because, whenever there's a storm, it sinks, falls forward, disperses, but there's a lot of rock there. So my goal is to preserve the property, to mitigate further damage by rebuilding the revetment wall. And that's what I want to do. And hopefully this will be a moot point if they raise the road and do the whole sand dune project. This could be a waste of money because that whole thing will take care of it either way. But in the meantime, this was kind of the goal.
Are we allowed to raise the existing riprap?
I don't know. I mean, I would say that, I mean, if you want to cut to my analysis, would be that, I mean, I've looked at aerial photos, and I think there's probably a sketchy history of what's been here. There certainly is some rock there now. You know, DEP's regulations are very specific as far as 310 CMR 10 goes, and putting armoring and putting revetment on barrier beaches and coastal dunes and banks, meaning that if you, you know, if you don't have anything before, I mean, after 1978 is really the cutoff date of whether you can construct. So they're not favorable to armoring, because it doesn't meet the performance standards. And second, just thought is that my research of our folders for this address does not show any permits for construction of revetment. So maybe you have some that I didn't find, but there had been no filings related to building of revetment of this sort. So I think maybe it's been rebuilt as the, you know, maybe as post-storm damage cleanup that maybe has just kind of been added to, but it's not, if you walk along Hammerock Beach and you see some of them are, you know, like the smooth face revetment that you think of, that's what I'm thinking that you're trying to achieve, right?
No, that's
No,
not.
you're just gonna
What we're trying to do is
build
just.
rocks.
Correct, because one of the things I don't want to create a barrier. What I'm trying to do is get something to absorb the brunt of the water, but not stop the water. And these rocks are just large rocks, and actually probably what I'm liking to achieve is something like, actually brought a picture. So that might be helpful.
I have a question, Amy. When we were down the beach today, is this the one where the rocks were just on the front?
Yes.
They weren't piled on top of each other? Oh, all right, now I know what I'm talking about.
You want to pause that today? That's actually that's 2 doors down from where we are. That's
Do you have a picture of your property?
I do. Actually, I've got one there too. Matter of fact, this is a contrast that goes through. This is what we are, I'm the one like this. So these are rocks over here, and then this is the one over here. So, that makes sense. So what I'm trying to really achieve is really what they just redid, 2 houses down within, when, do you know when they did that? When that house 2 doors down from me, where they did the huge renovations and they sustained a lot of damage? It's, you know, that's me. And this is the next example. This house. Because I know it wasn't long ago. I mean, it was within the last maybe 5 to 7 years, I'm thinking.
There's no fun with those rocks gotta
We have seawall there before.
Right, we
The
do
seawall's still
allow
there.
maintenance and
So,
repair of
you're allowed
seawalls
to
that have
put
been there a long, long
riprap in front of
time.
seawall.
So
Yeah.
That's
here's
the seawall.
2008. So this is
3 houses from here.
is this house, that's 2008. This is 2012.
When did they do the septic system? That was in the 80s, right?
So sometime
That
after
was in
2008.
1992.
Oh, 92.
Yeah.
Something
In fact,
wrong
I've got
about
those.
it.
Yeah, I think so. Just FYI.
Well, there was some there then, because this is a copy of the, I think it's a,
That's,
the septic plan.
that's what that point.
But they didn't file
Yeah,
it.
that was in 1993. So, you know, he raised a point that the septic plan, which was redone in 1993, I believe, and that is what the basis of what his drawings are.
1993.
I believe that's when they
Yeah,
did
there's
92.
Extensive riprap across the entire front of the lot back then.
Yeah.
So maybe it got wiped out after a storm in '93
No,
or
he rebuilt-
so, and then got rebuilt again in 2007.
No, what actually happened was that they did a substantial improvement on the house.
Yeah.
And so they built the entire house. And at that
And the
point,
beach goes up
they
and
put in
down.
pilings when they rebuilt the
Years
house.
it scours,
So
there's
it was
years
right after that
dumps
time,
there.
is when they redid the septic, because they needed to do a new septic when they rebuilt the house. But the rocks had been there prior to that, and I know they've redone them since then. I don't know the date, I wish my father had died a year and a half ago. And so I'm wanting to move down to Scituate to live there, and as a resident. And so he's not here to ask, but I know it's been redone, and I know my neighbor Bob my neighbor Bob Gracie was here earlier, and I know that when he built his house in the 80s, he said that's when they had the contractor, well, not originally, but he remembers having them put the rocks in at that point as well. But it's been done more than once, this I know.
So Bob, do you have any kind of plan as to how you want to place these? I mean, this shows some topographical areas. I mean, there's no real plan, any idea like how many tons of stone you want to place here? Or?
I haven't calculated it, no. I mean, it's very hard to judge because the surface of what's there now is irregular.
Right.
You'd have to, take a whole mess of, locate every rock and.
Sure.
But, I mean, obviously it would have a 1.5 to 1 or so slope on the front in order to have it stand up and,
Well, I guess, Richard, do you have, what do you want to?
I know for a fact there's been stone there, but I don't know when it was put or under what conditions it was put. So I'm not sure what to say.
Well,
I would say, you do have stone there, and we always allow people to move, maintain them, move them around. If we were gonna look at bringing more stone in, like Frank said, we always get, the toe, the width, how, what the finished product's gonna look like from a cross-section.
I think the goal would be very much like the picture that I showed you, which is 2 doors down from me. We are trying not to do a smooth-faced, structured pyramid-type wall, because one, that can be in my opinion, just a barrier which is probably detrimental to the beach, and number two, it could be a runway to run up and cause more damage to the structure. So what I'd like to do, what's worked there for many, many years, is just, again, rebuild and extend what's there to a reasonable size. And all those rocks, again, year after year, you know what happens down there. Whatever it is comes forwards. That's why it's questionable how far out those rocks even go, because they've flattened out over the years.
Lisa?
I don't think this is any different than what's been going on in front of a lot of the houses. They realigned the riprap, in front of their seawalls that have been there, pre-Wetlands Protection Act. I mean, I see it happen every year.
Jim? Amy, you've had a chance to review some of this, and you've also have been having conversations with EP or CZM on this, and we pretty much know that a seawall is not, or a revetment is not allowed to be constructed on a barrier beach. So, then there's different iterations of what people have placed there, as opposed to like building a real revetment, putting some additional stone to, as you say, break up some turbulence, or at least slow down some of that wave action. I guess it's hard to figure out how we're going to condition something. Like, let's say that we said, you know what, we think it's okay to add a certain amount of stones, and whether we say you can add 50 tons or whatever to this, to compensate from what looks like some of the stuff that's been washed away. But the commission can't condition the construction of any kind of seawall there. I mean, we're just not allowed to do that.
Well, you can use the picture of the neighbor as the basis of what we're trying to do here. I mean, just as far as the structure. We're not
Well,
looking for a
I mean,
seawall.
one of the houses that's here, I think I'm right, we actually, Amy and I stopped there after Riley because people were adding stone.
Mhm.
And technically, that wasn't, the governor gave a declaration during the storm to allow people to protect their home. If a part of your wall had fallen or something like that that was detrimental to your house, you had an opportunity during that time to do some of that work, and it got extended for another month. So there was a period of time when they were allowing people to.
This year you're talking about?
This past year.
Yeah, but this was done. That was
But what
probably
we
4 or 5 years ago.
what we found were people adding additional stone, which really was outside of what was allowed for that storm. You know, you could
Oh, yeah, no,
fix
I
up your
understand.
house,
Sure.
but people were going beyond that point and actually fortifying an area that really wasn't allowed under those guidelines. So it's hard to say, you know, it looks like a lot of these stones have been there for a while because they're pretty rounded. There's nothing that's really all that new. If they were new stones, it'd be sharp, but we did find people adding additional
Oh,
fortification
no,
to
yeah.
the front of
And
it.
again, my goal would be what was approved probably, and I don't know the date, but this was, they redid this whole house within the last, what, 5 years maybe? Four, you might know. That house, 3 houses down from where I am, where they redid, the McKennan's house. They redid the whole thing, and that was not that long ago. And so I know they redid this wall back at that point, because I remember they had asked my father if he wanted to do it at the same time, and he had declined to do so, because he just figured, well, whatever, I wish he hadn't, but he did. But again, you know, we're not trying to create a wall here, and, you know, and I'm an advocate to save the beach, and trust me, I'm an advocate. I want to keep the water going from the river as well to break up that force.
Sure.
So I understand, you know.
Yeah, so the application says to construct a, or reconstruct and elevate a riprap revetment, is what the application says.
Maybe, I think it might be in the terminology, you know, because I think because what you are describing is large material, so that could be considered more of a soft solution, I think.
Mhm.
It's just very large cobble, right? Boulders.
Yeah,
Mixed
very
in,
much.
you know, so.
I'm just wondering if we can quantify what we're doing. In other words, we can't just give you a carte blanche, you know, put a bunch of stones in front of your house.
Well, the existing elevation apparently was around 15 or 15 and a half. So, I mean, we're essentially looking for an additional 1.5 feet. I'm assuming that all the rocks that have fallen in between the wall and the rocks that are showing, you know, were piled up there at one point.
But Bob, do you think that you could give us a detail that, you know, shows like round-ish rocks that are
I can,
not
yeah, I can
together
give you a
like
detail,
puzzle,
but
you
it's
know,
probably
so they're-
gonna look more like a wall.
Yeah, no, I know.
I mean,
I think what would be good, Bob,
And
No,
again,
I'm
this
saying,
is the same.
yeah, and you're gonna,
Yeah, put that on a drawing.
I mean,
Right.
this
That
isn't this
concept.
house.
essentially, it's expanding the pile of rocks. I mean, it's,
right.
that's what
I
he's
think
asking for.
what would be more helpful to me is you're not trying to build a revetment, you're not trying, and when you try to draw that, you're gonna wind up showing, as you point out, something it's got some structure to it, as opposed to just mounding.
That's what I thought, a picture
Stones.
might be a helpful.
Yeah. And I think that we have an understanding of it, but I think it's also important to quantify what you're doing. So I think there's some way to take this off to some degree and say, all right, listen, we're gonna add roughly 50 tons of stone or 80 tons of stone or whatever it is, and the stones are gonna be somewhere between 1.5 tons and 5 ton stone or something.
And they're gonna be placed in such a manner so that it's gonna allow flow, right? So
Right,
it's not,
yes.
you're not forming a solid wall. I mean, like, that type of information is helpful, I think, for everybody, because it, you know what I mean? 'Cause
Well, I think
that's-
it looks like we have application for 2 others, so there's
Yeah.
actually 3 homes in a
Yeah,
row.
that's going to be a different format of stone. Meaning, I'm not trying to get any kind of a solid, integrated.
No, actually, it's gonna be the same. They're just putting, everybody, you're all, talking to all of you, you're all just taking riprap and putting them up to take away a little energy out of there. It's not solid wall.
Right.
It's
Right.
protecting the seawall, and it's just some riprap.
Oh, I get it.
And it's not gonna be, what's the matter, Penny?
what bothers me is that rock stones, these big stones were put there, and I came back and I went downstairs, I went to all the files. I can never, so we're almost saying, do what you want and we'll let you redo it without ever filing. They never filed for those rocks to be there to begin with. We.
So what year were those first rocks put there?
I have no idea.
So if they were put there in 1960, do you think you would have a file on them?
Yeah, downstairs, oh, I went back.
So that predates the Wetland Protection Act? Do you think you'd have files on?
Okay, let me put it this way, I found something in 82 for another house, but it was only to rebuild the house after 78. The files do go quite a ways back. The pictures that we,
But 78 is
Got.
after the Wetlands
okay,
Protection
but
Act.
the pictures we got showed that at one point there was nothing there. What was the year in?
No, I'm looking at that, and you come over here and I'll show you the difference in the grade at the time. You can't definitively say that.
Because if there's
If
sand
you
on
look
top of
at this
that,
sand
you
line
can't
and
see the
that,
riprap.
right, I watched
Everything's
that
changed.
beach from one year to the next, the elevation go up 8 feet, and then watch it go down 8 feet.
Yeah.
So you cannot definitively say from an
I
aerial
can't
photo.
definitively say,
Right.
but nobody's telling me when they put these on. You know?
I think what happens, though, is a cumulative thing. I think over the years, people trying to protect their home have added stones.
Yeah, since 78.
Well, I think even before that, I think, I mean, the ocean's been coming at this place for a long time.
We haven't been doing riprap that long. We were doing seawalls for a long time.
Well, there were poured walls, but there were also people just placing stones to protect their home. And I think,
78, a lot of that happened. I mean, I've been here my whole life, and there wasn't riprap when I was a kid around. It was after 78 everyone started, and that was after the.
But when we have people come in here to maintain and repair seawalls, we do not make them prove when the seawall was built. We've done that a lot of times, allowing that.
We've allowed riprap in front of the seawalls to help
Well,
protect the seawall. What do we mean we're stopping it? It's grandfathered.
What I'm saying,
We have no right to stop it.
well, we're mandated to follow DEP's guidelines and CZM's guidelines. And this is a barrier beach, and the whole idea is that this be allowed to shift and move in a more natural fashion. Now, it's also an altered resource, so there's all these houses here, and people are gonna try to protect their property
It's
as
an
best they
developed
can.
barrier beach that doesn't operate as a barrier beach.
Right. So, they're trying to come up with some solutions to protect this within the guidelines that DEP set for barrier beaches. That's one of the reasons that they're proposing a dune as opposed to a seawall in this area, because DEP would not permit a seawall here as they are in other areas, right?
Correct.
So, I understand what these folks are asking for. They're just saying, we've lost some of this stone, the storms wash it away, things break up, whatever. We want to add some stone back here to just maintain what we have to protect our home. I understand that.
They also want to realign the existing riprap that's in place.
Well, realigning and starting to build a revetment, though, Lisa, is different than just adding loose stone to mitigate storm damage or to slow down some of that
It's
wave action.
unreasonable to say, let's dig up all those stones, fill them in and start again. I mean, because that's the option. You say, oh, let's just dig up, see what you have and do it. I mean, we could do it.
Well,
but it just
it's
seems
kind of pointless.
But my point is, it seems to me, and I understand the state, and I understand there's a lot of issues that are going on, but ultimately, we want to save the river, which is getting destroyed. We want to save the beach. But the river's taken a bigger beating than the ocean has been. So I understand there's a lot of issues at hand, but we want to preserve the property. We want to preserve the river, which are the wetlands, and we're losing that one on a big one. And I'm telling you, I go out there and I look. There's no sawgrass, there's no mussels. The river looks like, and you've been here forever. So wouldn't we want to try to help prevent some water going through there if it's not directly detrimental to the beach? In all these years, we've never had a problem with the beach.
You're here tonight. We've had multiple meetings with DEP, CZM, and some that we feel frustrated with. I mean, we've looked at some of these things and saying, just why can't we reclaim overwash? You know, this overwash from these storms, isn't it a shame that this is all now smothering the marsh?
But it's defying common sense from an
understand what you're,
and that's why it's so hard.
But I'm saying,
I'm a biology background, so I'm into this.
Right.
But it's just like frustrating.
But we have had multiple meetings with these folks who ultimately dictate what happens here. And they're saying to us, here's what we expect you to enforce, okay? This is our guidelines, this is what we want you to enforce with this. And we don't have we have wiggle room to look at some of this, but we don't have the authority to say to DEP, you know what, we're gonna make our own rules in Scituate.
Oh, no, but
Because
on
we
the other
can't.
hand, when I read through the conservation manual, the coastal conservation manual, which, you know, there's a lot of balance. I mean, it's not an absolute one way or the other way. It's a matter of you're preserving the property, you're preserving the beach, you're preserving it. And that's where, you know, not every scenario is the same. You know, and I understand this isn't like I'm a contractor coming in here and saying, hey, I want to dump, you know, blah, 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 and I'll walk away. I want to live here. I don't want to live here when, you know, the next storm comes around, your house might be gone.
Right, and there's been other issues where we've looked at these where, like, there was this overtime individually constructed seawalls, and then people have come before the commission wanting to tear down their house, build a new one, pardon me, and the commission said, fine, but remove all your walls.
Well, that's what we did.
Which has then created a hole,
Right.
which forced water through one particular area. So your neighbors to the left and right of you don't do that.
Right.
You're the only person with a hole in the wall. That's where all the water's gonna go.
Oh, absolutely.
No,
No,
we-
when you look at the beach dune, you know, the people
get
where the
it.
beach dune ends, and
We-
that's where it's, you know.
We get it, but on the other hand, we're not coastal scientists or geologists to say, how will this impact not only you, but your neighbors and the beach? You know, we're not.
Oh, no, and I know that, and that's why my neighbors came, because, you know, we're on the same plane.
I understand.
It's a small island, and,
So-
you know, we're gung ho for.
So we're
you know,
trying
the
to
whole
figure
thing.
out, the commission would obviously not like to see people's homes or property ruined. At the same time, we're trying to stay within the guidelines. I mean, I build houses. There's parts of the building code that I think make a lot of sense. There's parts of it
Yeah.
that I would question why this got so complicated, but it is. And the building inspector's still gotta look at this and decide whether he can approve it or he can't. And we're sort of in the same situation with this. So we look at this and say, what can we condition on your property that's acceptable to DEP? And at the same time, hopefully give you some protection.
I mean, you know, and again, I would use a local person to do this work.
Right.
Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, you talked to Jay, what's Jay's last name? Jay, he
Gary.
does, Jay Gary, he does a lot of work for the town.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's actually put in walls down the beach. So he'd be the one doing the work, and I'm sure the fact that where he lives and where his business comes from, he'd be very prudent on not wanting to go above and beyond and trying to make a unreasonable thing.
I think what would be good, Bob, are you working with these other two?
Yes.
So
I
you're
did the
working on
plan,
all
I
of
did the
this.
plans for them, yes.
I think it would be good for the commission to see what the plan is as a whole, because individually, you know, these things could vary. I think that they should be kind of put together, and give us some sort of idea of what we're talking about in terms of tonnage and sort of a shape that this will take, so that we can reasonably look at this, and then, we can't give you carte blanche, go ahead and start dumping stones there and build a wall that you want to do.
Well, we don't need a carte blanche, that's why I'm trying to give you a
Well, if
picture
you-
of what they have next door, and we can certainly give the dimensions to
I
that
understand, but the
as well.
commission can't be out there saying, well, geez, that doesn't really look like the picture. You know, you
Well,
gotta
but we
move
could
the-
do, you can do, we already have the height, so you can certainly do some sort of a width, correct? So
Yeah.
really, it's a height and width, I would think would be the two
I
dimensions.
think, and with that, should come up with some reasonable idea of how much material you're gonna need.
Well, there's hundreds of feet of this same sort of thing going up the beach.
Yeah.
There's at least 300 feet in a row there.
Okay.
And some of it looks the same, and there's a couple of them there that look
And
like they were.
every machine operator that builds them is gonna do something a little bit different.
Yeah, but
I
what
get
I'm
that.
saying is, all of those must have been permitted. They're all recent rocks that are there.
Yeah, well,
Well, but that's what we could get, because that's what we're trying to find here, is to say, you know, a reasonable solution, you know, just to get this out. Because again, this isn't.
I understand what you want, and I understand why you want it. And again, what we're trying to figure out is a way that we can give you something, condition something that DEP will also agree to, because they will oversee our work, and this is being scrutinized by them. It's not just by us. DEP will look at these projects and say, yeah, that's okay, or no, we disagree with that. And so I think if we can find some way to meet in the middle on that, you might get some protection for your project.
So what, essentially, so specifically, we need to have the tonnage?
I think what would be good is to have, all I'm seeing right here is just sort of a roughed out area that said, we're gonna put some stone here to this. I think we need a little more detail on the plan, and we need to have an idea of how much stone you're gonna have and what size stones. When anyone's doing this work, typically for a seawall, it's called out what sort of shape that will take, how big the stones are. You know, are we talking stones that are gonna be, you know, 2-ton to 5-ton stones or 8-ton, I mean, we wanna have some idea of that. People that are building that, you can talk to Mr. Geary and find out what he would propose to put there, and give us some more information on that.
We're trying to stay away from the word wall, because it's not intended to be a
absolutely,
wall.
right.
You keep calling it a wall.
Yeah.
Try to
that's what I'm
stay
saying.
from just bring all the stone you need in Gillette Stadiums on the beach, but it's not a wall.
Jay Gary did.
Now, somewhere between the two is a quantifiable,
Well, I don't even like the word limit, honestly. I think you really want to go more towards cobble berm terminology, or, you know, something that's got some form and function, something that can maybe move a little bit,
Yeah.
or let things go through.
Stone
Cobble-
mound.
Riff-raff, I don't know that one, but I hear cobble dune being floated around.
But the definition of
Large
cobble is
cobble.
less than 12 inches in diameter.
Yeah.
And we gotta have bigger than that.
So,
In the gardens, and he
maybe you
did
can
a riprap wall.
design something
Uh-huh.
with a little.
And we accepted the plans. If he talks to them, because what they're talking about is very similar to what Jay Gary did, and for the gardens.
right, no, we need some
They are, yeah.
quantification of
Yeah.
dimensions and the
Yeah,
volume of
detail.
stone that's gonna, yeah.
There was a lot of
No,
detail.
we're not, no. You're putting a
What was the number?
pile of boulders.
I think it was
They want to put in big armor stone
ARDEN.
and
So should we say
interlock
that,
the
because he
rock.
wants to get it all together?
Yeah.
So, question for you.
Sure.
And I know when we present this, you know, my neighbors are going to do a proposed wall as well, although the wall that they're going to be doing is a little bit, well, not a wall, they're going to be,
Yeah.
and you can refresh them. But we, again, just, so you know, just boulders, we certainly.
I understand.
And I.
Say it 1,000 times. We gotta get.
I'll ask Jay,
Okay.
and he can get the tonnage, I mean, that's.
What we're gonna
that's
do
not a
is
problem.
continue this, we can continue it to the next meeting.
Is that enough time?
If we've got enough time to get some more information. And
We'll
then-
try.
Yeah.
When you want
Because
to-
when do we continue the other ones to?
23rd.
July
23rd.
So put them all on for July 20.
Okay.
All right, so
Well,
I'm
one
gonna
right
contact
after.
Jay.
Yeah.
Well,
Find out
fine.
about what the tonnages.
Okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I make a motion that we continue on 82 Central Avenue, July 23rd at 6:1.
Second.
Okay? All right, so you come up with, thank you. All in favor? Thank you, Richard.
I'll bring some donuts next week.
For breakfast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, where are we at? 242 Central Ave. Where did I put that one?
Oh, do I need to give you that one too? No, I printed that
I
one.
think I got it. Just been moving stuff around here. On July 9th, 2018, at 6:50 PM, the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40, Chapter 131, Section 40 Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Lisa Case to reconstruct and enlarge a deck and small addition elevated on pilings on property located at 242 Central Ave, Hummerock. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Good evening.
What do you want to do?
No, I passed mine down. Thank you, though.
You good? We have a lot of things in the first floor that looks like it's, could be having a problem with water, utilities, hot water heater, furnace, electrical panel, washer, dryer, all kinds of electronical things, and therefore thought it would be smart to put this all on pilings with the utility building, and we also have a bathroom down there, and so we're gonna put a bathroom up on this floor, as well as storage, and change the door from the front with the wind that's crazy to more on the side, so it's easier to open. And once we complete that, then we're gonna file with Nancy for an elevation grant.
Lisa, is there a plot plan, or did you put one with it?
I had submitted that to Carol, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Jim.
None of the addition is going on any grass or anything. The front is going on existing asphalt and concrete, and on the side, it's just cobble.
So this, you're gonna wipe out the foundation and put the whole thing on pilings?
Not at this time, we're doing it in steps. Right now, we have a deck in the front of the house, okay? That deck's coming down, and we're pushing it out and putting it on pilings. Everything's going on pilings wrapped around the house. Yeah.
But you're
Okay.
keeping the foundation as is.
Well, yeah, right now, the foundation's staying the same. The addition's going on with the deck with pilings above the elevation 18.
But you're bringing the services up into
Yep.
that addition.
Right, yeah. Everything's getting moved out of that first level.
Okay.
But it's an addition and a deck is what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, basically stuff that's taking up space down below is now being elevated up.
The addition is the shaded area.
Yeah, I can show you.
No, but I keep hearing elevate, but there's a foundation, so we're putting an addition and we're putting a deck.
elevated, so if you go to the other one, here,
The addition.
right here is, this is of the existing house. Right here.
Right.
Okay? So this is added. So this is where water comes pouring through. You see what here. So this is where the utilities are all gonna go. This is where the bathroom and laundry and closet's gonna go. Right here, now, this is a deck now.
Okay.
So now this is going to be,
So this is all gonna be a room when you're done?
yep, this is all storage, and here's the entry coming in this way instead of the front.
Got it.
Because you can barely open the door. So that
Right.
way. Then there's a deck in front, which then is gonna take the remainder of the stuff down below that can be stored outside, as well as all of the outside furniture. Because you no longer leave stuff in the front of the house based on the storms and the cobble that gets piled. Because because the cobble's piled so
Yep,
high,
yep.
water pours over the retaining wall, it just rips out everything in the front
Sure.
that used to be stored.
Right.
So now it's got to go.
So it's an addition and a deck on piers,
Yes.
is what it is. Yeah.
And it conforms to this is the new FEMA flood zone elevation 18, and the lower part of this floor is at 18.9, which block is perfectly. Was that clear?
So are you taking out the bathroom that's down in the first floor, you said?
Well, when we elevate the house, everything there is, when it comes up from.
But the bathroom will be there now?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not an elevation, this project, that's what was throwing me off. This is not an elevation. It's a deck and an addition on pilings. That's
But everything that's being done is going up on pilings. That's all down.
Yeah, there's no poured foundation on the addition.
No, it's a deck and addition on pilings,
Correct.
period, yeah.
And this is pending DEP number. And I have Board of Health approval.
You have your green cards?
Come on.
You gotta fill in for Carol.
Didn't ask for any of this.
Because Carol always reminds me.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
So we need a DEP number anyways.
Yes.
Lisa, what are the piles? Driven- it says driven
Pine
pilings.
piles.
So they're wood?
Yeah. But when we elevate, it's gonna have to be on concrete piles, because there's no place
Right.
to move the house for the pine. That's what
Well, and you're not
Walmart's
gonna be
doing.
moving it after you build all these new additions attached to it on pilings, too.
Well, we have no choice, the problem is, we have no choice. We wanted to do this as a one elevation, but
Right,
because of
right.
the water filling up the basement, we had to do this as an emergency,
Mm-hmm.
and then file for the elevation grant. I'm getting all my things.
Where's green guys?
Get my green cards.
Okay. Penny?
No, I don't have any questions. We just need a DEP number.
Richard?
And I think we're good to go.
Definitely need the DEP.
Paul?
I already asked my questions.
Jen? Amy, anything else you want to add? Anybody in the audience for case?
So what are we gonna do? Wait for the DEP number to close next meeting or close pending?
It's up to you.
What's your advice as a professional?
Well, I think in the past, we've closed pending, so I think that we could probably do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we close pending DEP. The orders won't go out till we get a DEP number.
It's fine, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The complication is that if they come back with comments that we need to address, then we need to reopen.
Well, you know where to find me.
Well, we just closed, so.
Okay.
Re-advertise, reopen.
All right.
You can leave. Yes. Thank you.
So,
The request for the amendment.
what else do we have here?
We got the request for an amendment, 7 Surfside.
All right. Fleming, 7 Surfside Road. They wanted to take, we positioned this, there was a garage, right, Paul, you got the plan?
Yes.
I have the plan too. I have the condition.
So just a clarification, so this is just, I think he's gonna present it apparently on a presentation, but what you're evaluating as to whether or not you'll entertain this as an amendment to the notice of intent.
Okay.
And if you do, then the next meeting, it would be advertised as a public hearing. So a butter card would go out, and then would be the actual amendment hearing.
Okay.
Got it?
So they just
This is
see.
just to find out if we're gonna consider this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, at the, Frank, when I spoke to you in May or June,
Yeah.
we talked about whether or not you thought an amendment would be okay to file for it.
Right.
I took that as a green light to go ahead and file the application for an amendment under the DEP guidelines, which I did do. We did notify the abutters. I spoke to one abutter, Mrs. Sullivan, to the north, and she was happy the garage was being moved further away from her. That yellow on the plan shows that the garage is going to be attached to the house. On the original submittal, it was not going to be detached. It was going to be closer to the northerly property line, which is on the top of the sheet. We've also moved the house further away from the coastal bank by about 6 or 7 feet this direction.
After the, but that was on the initial filing.
Right, no, on the initial filing, this house was actually closer to the ocean by about 5 to 6 feet.
Okay.
When they decided to add the garage to it,
Mm-hmm.
they also decided to move the house a little bit closer toward the street. This dimension here was 21.2, now it's 12.5.
So the amendment's not just to bring the garage attached to the house, it's also to move the house
Move the
back.
house
It's
back.
also move the house further away from the coastal bank.
Okay.
They're also proposing to put a shed and attach it to the rear of the garage because they don't have any storage where the house is elevated. There's also a room above the garage. The architect added a set of stairways as a second means of egress from the garage, which is required under the building code. That wasn't on the original plan. We've also picked the house up we picked the garage up a foot, from 17 and a half to 18 and a half. The driveway is still a gravel driveway. The house is still on the piles, none of that has changed. The garage will still be on a poured concrete foundation wall with a slab. And the height of the building is well above the FEMA requirement of elevation. The FEMA flood zone here is 16. The first floor is going to be 24 and a half, which is 8.5 feet higher than it has to be.
Well, where was the garage gonna go?
In the original application,
Yes.
the garage was going to be 8 feet off the property line, and it was actually turned a little bit, but now it's going to be pushed right up against the house. This is where the garage is right now. What they're going to do is to separate the garage from the house at this location. They're going to pick it up and move it over and put it on the concrete foundation. Then what they'll do is to excavate for the piers and eventually move the house onto it.
Yeah, you had to move the garage if you were bringing the house back.
Yeah, we're going to move the garage first, and then you can move the house.
Then you move the house.
Right, because the house is back here. If you move it forward, you build some of these piers and move it back.
all we're deciding is that we'll entertain an amended plan. I have no problem at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Looks good to me.
So, how much more of a plan do we want Paul to submit? I mean, he's gonna give us a plan that basically shows where these are going.
Right, and so now he should give us a narrative, if he hasn't already.
I did that, and I filed as though this was a full amendment, so I
Okay.
think the only thing you have to do at this point is advertise it.
Yeah, and then he can come in and give the presentation, full presentation
Yeah.
again to the.
Yeah.
It's
And
official.
then, right.
I mean, I think a combination,
Figure out
Paul,
exactly
as
what we're amending.
you and I discussed,
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with attaching that. I mean, it's basically all the same area and everything like that, it's just attached to it. And moving it back, in my mind, is a plus. I mean, anytime you can get further away, is good. So, by all means,
I'm not
you can hear what the
finding
commission.
In this finding.
What's that?
I'm not finding a narrative in here.
It's on the front page. I'm asking for the narrative. The
Oh,
front
all
page
right,
explains it.
List 1, 2, 3, you call them now, okay.
Yeah. And then what I did was the list of documents that we have to have.
Well, he's gonna
So
advertise
we
and
can
come
put
and
this
put
on
it on
for
the
next time.
on, yeah.
We don't fill out a form, it's in a letter form
All right.
for the amendment. I also attached the original order conditions, in case you needed to see those, yep. But that's the plan we submitted, and I'm not proposing any changes at this point, so.
So right now, Paul, there's a full foundation under the house.
That's on concrete piers.
The existing house
No, the existing house has a foundation?
is on a foundation. When the house gets relocated, it's gonna be on piers. Then the garage is gonna be on a foundation.
That's right, a reinforced concrete foundation.
Okay.
So is there a new structural plan that you'll be submitting?
We did submit that with the original order
The
conditions?
original.
So with the amendment, none of those change?
No, no.
Good night, Bob.
This is pretty straightforward.
Okay. All right,
That's it.
So you'll advertise the hearing?
yeah, get it to us as quick as you can, and let's get it going.
Okay. Will that be on the 23rd, the next
I
meeting?
don't know. Will he make the 23rd? If he gets it in here tomorrow?
No, you have it already.
Oh,
Yeah, so if we get the legal ad in, I think you can be on the 23rd,
Yeah,
yes.
but you have the application already.
Right,
Okay.
Okay.
unless you're gonna supplement it based
No.
on stuff that you've heard here. like
No,
new
there's nothing to
stamp,
supplement, no.
Structural drawings, anything like that,
No, the structural drawings aren't changing.
Okay.
just the date of the plan, so that all we're really amending is the plan and the
Yes.
description.
Well, the plan I have is June 11th, 2018.
Right.
Okay.
It's also labeled amended site plan.
And the project description is changing too.
So,
There's also a note on the plan, I think it's the first note, stating that it is an amended plan, and it refers to the original date of the order of conditions when they were issued. So that's note number 1.
Okay. Go home.
Okay,
thank you, Paul.
you're welcome, thank you.
Hopefully we'll see you the 23rd.
Good luck with your project. What else,
No, I guess now, orders of condition.
Orders of conditions.
so South River dredging, we have that one?
Yeah. I make a motion, we accept them, it's written.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Same Cloth Ventures?
That's 127 and Vinyl Road. I make a motion, we accept those orders as written.
Second. All in favor? I guess I never knew that was the name of that project.
I didn't either. That's interesting.
and Diamond Development, 53 Border Street, landscape and mitigation plan.
It has been appealed to DEP. I'm just wondering if we should wait to approve this until that appeal is finished.
Fine.
I-
We've already
I-
closed, yeah, we've closed the
No,
hearing.
I understand that, but where it's been appealed, I don't know what's
It's
the normal.
closed, so.
It's
you
closed,
appeal
so
when
we
they
just
get this.
march forward. If they stop the whole thing, they stop it, but.
Right, and then they have to start again.
What do
I agree
we
with Paul.
usually-
Yeah, we do our thing. DEP does their thing, we do ours.
You look as puzzled as I am.
Well, I understand your questioning.
Yeah.
If it's under that and if there's gonna be something different. On the other hand, we've already closed the hearing, so it's not like we can change things. I guess the question would be, are we okay with that planting plan? There wasn't anything definitive. If
I
you're-
was fine with the planting plan, I'm not questioning the plan myself, I just didn't know, I don't remember the last time we had an appeal going on with DEP, what we did, that's
Right.
my own questioning of it.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else had a problem with the planting plan.
No, I was okay with the planting plan.
All right, Amy, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, for the plantings themselves, I mean, if you're good, I'm good.
You're fine.
I mean, there were other things in the order, I think that still, you know, maybe needed some attention, so it's not just the plan, but this gets it to the next step, for sure.
I don't quite understand, I mean, if we're going, are you? Oh, we're only doing the landscape and mitigation.
Correct.
All right, that's all, I just want to be sure. Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the landscape and mitigation plan.
Conditions.
Yes,
That would condition.
right.
Conditions, yeah.
Objection.
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
Jim Spellman, 49 Border Street. I'm confused. We've been sitting here for going on 2.5 hours. In the order of conditions, proposed order of conditions, it states that a final revised site plan and a separate planning guide shall be submitted for review and acceptance. Planning plan shall be accepted at a public meeting by the Conservation Commission and show all the proposed plannings, and goes on.
And that's what we're doing now.
Well, I mean, it's a public hearing.
Yeah.
Where's the plan? I mean, you have to show it to us. You can't just approve it, can you?
Yes.
The commission members have reviewed it and the agents reviewed it.
Public hearing. That's right.
Right,
Frank.
so
Wait,
we-
you're here, it's open to the
At a
public.
public hearing, we are voting to accept it. We
Without,
had to review it, we
without
don't
pub-
have to review it.
without public review.
The public has no comment ever on orders of conditions.
You've written this into the order of conditions.
Yeah.
No.
For us to enforce and us to vote on.
We vote on it.
Yeah.
It specifically says a public hearing. This is a.
This is a public hearing. You wouldn't be sitting here if it was a private hearing.
We're voting
Yes.
at the hearing.
So my question is, in this, you talk about 8-inch diameter trees, at least 8 8-inch diameter trees. In the last plan I saw, there were sticks, fruit trees, and very small trees. Which is, this is your order of conditions. His planning plan is not at all consistent with this. That's my question. I mean, you're taking down a whole forest of trees, and this is a good plan here. You call for at least 8-inch diameter trees. There's nothing but sticks on that plan. There's not one single large tree on that plan. There's flowering trees and a few cedars that are small. You're not replacing what you're losing.
Dave?
We've closed the hearing. Right now, we're
Yes.
approving the paperwork
Yes.
and the commissioners vote. Yeah, so did you make a motion?
Yes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think that your appeal, quite honestly, is for the whole project.
I agree. I agree, but honestly, I mean, I think you've just given, I hate to say it, but it feels to me like you've just given more fodder for the, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wish someone had explained that 3 hours ago, but.
You did.
You know what, we're all here volunteers, and
I know.
there's no one here that's getting a paycheck to be here tonight.
I know that.
And it's unfortunate how these pieces fall, but that's typically, our orders are done at the end of the meeting. They're always done at the end of the meeting.
I guess we misunderstood what a public hearing meant. But thank you for your time.
Is there anything else?
What else do we have for,
Everything else that's been taken care of that's on there. I don't think. Yeah,
do you have any agent's
certificates.
report or violation enforcement updates that you want to go over tonight, Amy?
Cayman is submitting a plan.
Again, another one. Well, we like
Promises
to get for you.
this week. Frank, did you see my email?
Yeah,
Worked.
keep trudging.
It worked, wait. Let's see the plan on.
Got to see all the chapters.
Just
See all
because
the
he got
chapters.
back to you.
Yeah. I know, that was a miracle.
Well, when you would do a full
Well, it's done,
security.
it's not done yet, yeah.
Yeah.
Got to see all the chapters.
So we should make a motion to close then?
Now, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.